Vajradhara Uta Vardhanya Shri Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munishasa Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Vakike Kudam Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundandagi Nam Pakyuke Tudandagi Yerme Chiktu Jingilo Pakyuke Da Pakyuke Sunda Daginam Pakyuke Jingilo Makyuke Dagilo Makyuke Sunda Dagi Jingilo Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakya Munye Swaha Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyavs Jinso Give Sonam Gi Drola Benchra Sangye Drupar Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyavso Dagi Jinso Give Sonam Gi Drola Benchra Sangye Drupar Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam La Kyavsu Chi Dagi Jinso Give Sonam Drola Benchra Sangye Drupar In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment, to the practice of generosity and the other perfection. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentients. last session, we did in a very brief way the part, not so brief but not so long also, the part regarding the three transformations in the beginning of the practice. And the next step that is very important is we start actually the so-called generation stage. We're already inside. When we do the three transformations, it's the beginning of the generation stage, okay? When we did now. And then from this we would start in the practice of self-healing with what is called the generation of the body mandala. So generally speaking, in the practices, create what is called frontal generation, self-generation. The frontal generation is when they generate the deity in front of us. And then when we do the self-generation, is we generate ourselves as deity, as the Buddha. So in the practice of self-healing, we do is a self-generation practice. So in front of us, we have Guru Buddha is always there. It's our Guru, inseparable of all Buddhas. In his 5 chakras, there are the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. It's always there in front of us. Then in the moment that we have generated ourselves as a pure being, then the objective is to develop our qualities related to each one of the 5 chakras to their maximum potential. Okay. So once we have generated ourselves as a pure deity, we imagine the central channel, and at this point we imagine the central channel very strong, and the left and the right channel more weak. Normally our reality is more or less the opposite, in the sense that normally the left and the right channel are more strong and the central channel is more weak. But in this case we imagine the opposite, especially because that's the more healthy state. So we imagine that the left and the right channel of attraction and aversion are very weak, while the central channel, which shows a more balanced energy and so on, is very strong. Okay? And one thing that we can do is the process of visualizing our channels from inside. So it's not only from the very beginning we can train. When we breathe in and out and so on, we can try to follow the air with the mind. So the mind goes inside the body. Our tendency is to imagine ourselves from outside. When we say, okay, we have a central channel, a left and a right channel, it's like if we're looking more or less to the mirror, maybe. Like we are imagining our channel here. It's okay, but it's also possible, and it's also better in some senses, to visualize our subtle body from inside. It's like if we are traveling inside our central channel. So there is one exercise in which we visualize the subtle body, like after we have generated ourselves in a pure state, before generating the lotus, we can actually just imagine that we travel inside this channel. So we go inside the central channel and we go down slowly, and then we see, okay, in the crown chakra, we look around, we see all the channels connected to it, the 32 channels. Then we look down, we see the central channel. Then we go to truth, there are 16 channels going out. And then we go down, and then we can go down to the whole central channel. Then when we are down there, we look up and we see the central channel up. And then we can move inside. Okay, it's more difficult, but it's quite important also when we do like mantra recitation and other types of visualization, it's important for us to visualize us from inside, not from outside. Like many different types of mantra recitations, we should visualize from the heart, we are the syllable hung in the center of the heart. Then around of us are the mantras, and from there it's emanating everything. Like, it's also this type of visualization is important. So somehow it's important for us to train since the beginning on visualizing the channels from the inside and not from the outside. Okay? It's not something, as I said before, not necessarily easy in the beginning, but the more because we're not used even with the idea. The perspective is a bit strange. But if we put some effort in it, slowly we can get more used to the idea. Okay, so one way is that we just imagine the channels up and down and like looking inside. So also when we do like the breathing meditation, the vase breathing, we imagine that we go inside, and then when we are in the navel, we concentrate, we enter with the mind to the navel chakra, and then we look up and we see the whole channel going up. So we imagine from inside. That's actually one other way which is possible. Okay? Now, the practice of self-healing follows the most classical way of generation stage, the Kongenjanga Tibetan. Let me see if I remember the whole description, which is called in Tibetan. If I remember correctly, I need to check to be precise in names, but the generation stage is based itself in first meditating on emptiness, then from emptiness generating the container, which is like the lotus. Then we have the sit syllable, then we have the symbol, and then there is the complete body, the complete Buddha. Okay? So the process that we have of actually from the state of emptiness, then arises the body, and inside of this there's lotus flower, then within the lotus flower come the 6 syllables, and then from the 6 syllables arise the symbols, then from the symbols arise the Buddhas, and then we meditate on each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. This is the exact classical way of any generation stage, like in Guya Samaja, for example. Okay? And if we go to most of the initiations and most of the practices, there is always following the same process. Okay? That's why Rinpoche somehow, he fakes us as being very modern and changing things somehow, but he's extremely traditional in this sense, like just doing things that, somehow he's very capable in adapting his mentality, and he's completely open in his mind. That's why for some people, when we look at Rinpoche sometimes, he may seem very non-conventional, because we have the idea that conventional means small-minded somehow. Rinpoche is extremely open-minded. I never saw anyone that is more open-minded than him, and now that I know. So, in the same way that Rinpoche is extremely open-minded, he may not seem so conventional for us. But actually, he's following tradition exactly as things are. He's following perfectly. So, even sometimes, like, you say, oh, we make sadhanas short. Then looks like they are more short, there is less to recite, and then we are there like 3 hours and a half reciting it, and it's not ended yet, And then it looks like short because the way how Rinpoche makes it look like nice. But actually we are there much longer time and much doing than if we were doing another way, And it's like Rinpoche's skillful means of guiding us. Anyhow, the point is that the practice of self-healing follows just the normal process of every generation stage and after the completion stage also. Okay? So basically, the process that we follow on this generation stage is the natural process of birth, and also because on the Tantra, everything that we do, most of the practices and so on, there is always Shinma Benetsu, Lam Genetsu, Drebunetsu. There are 3 aspects, which is the basis, the path, and the result. The basis is basically the resources that we have that we need to transform in order to reach the result. Okay? So we cannot base ourselves, we cannot do anything that is incoherent with the resources that we actually do have. So what is the basis? Our body, our mind, the natural processes of this life. It's like, for example, death is the basis, bardo is the basis, rebirth is the basis. The whole process, our body, the mind, it's all the basis. And how we use this for our path, this is what we call the path. And when we reach a pure state, this is called the result. Okay? So, basically here, the process of generating the energy is based on our own resources and the normal process of generating energy and of birth. Okay? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to have a healthy container, a healthy environment. So that's what is represented by generating the lotus. So as we generate the lotuses, it's like before we need to plant anything, we can see around here what the farmers need to do before planting. Then how do you call that? Plow? Plow the land, need to go and make the land nice and to prepare the land in a nice way. It's not just a matter of throwing seeds and putting water, no? You need to prepare the environment in the right way. The same thing is any type of birth. When a child is born in the mother's womb, the womb needs to be prepared. The womb needs to have all the right conditions, otherwise life cannot come. Okay? So, also in the Vajrayana path, whenever anything that we need to generate, first we need to have the right environment for it to be able to develop. So this is being represented by the lotus flower. One of the meaning of the lotus flower is having our subtle channels to be perfectly balanced. Now they are like maybe a little bit like one on top of the other and not like with knots, and so the energy cannot really flow so well. Instead, when we make the generation of the lotus, we imagine that the channels, they become perfectly aligned, just as the petals of a lotus. Okay? So the lotus that we visualize is actually like a symbol. The actual meaning is the subtle energy channels that are perfectly aligned. Okay? So we have 32 channels at the secret chakra, 64 channels at the navel, 8 channels at the heart, 16 channels at the throat, and 32 channels at our crown. So based on that, what happens is that we have different numbers of petals. So we have 32 petals, green lotus at the secret, 64 petals, yellow lotus at the navel, 8 petals, blue lotus at the heart, 16 petals, red lotus at the throat, and 32 petals, white lotus at the crown. Okay? So when we do this, basically the meaning is that we are aligning perfectly all the channels. Okay? This is one meaning. Another meaning also connected to that, it is said that there are 4 different types of birth. There is the birth on one's mother womb. There is the birth from egg. There is the birth from rohit, like some sort of small insects or other types of very, very small types of life, called birth from heat. And then there is the birth that comes from, it's called miraculous birth. Miraculous birth is what happens like how a being is born, for example, in the bardo. It's instant. Or in the hell realm. Or in the God realm. Okay? Like in one instant. There's no childhood. Like when we are, let's say, so-called born in a dream. When we are dreaming. Suddenly we are in a complete different context, complete different situation, and boom. Like miraculous birth. Suddenly it's there. Okay? There is not like, okay, the childhood of the birth and of the dream, and then slowly we get there. No. Suddenly we are there. It is an example of what we call miraculous birth. So miraculous birth is something that comes like in a spontaneous way. And in the Pure Land, it's said that whoever is reborn in the Pure Land is born inside a lotus flower. So that's why there are some It's said that some people can be reborn in the lotus flower, but the lotus flower never opens. So it takes a long time for the lotus flower to open. So you are in the Pure Land but cannot enjoy the Pure Land because your lotus have not opened yet. They said when the karma is not complete somehow. This is not our problem right now. The point is that when we make the generation of the lotuses, it has also the meaning of like creating the causes to be reborn in a lotus. Okay? But it means also having all our channels of energy perfectly aligned so the energy can flow well, can be in the right way. This is also what it means as we generate the lotuses inside. And we do the lotus, we do the mudra of the turning of the lotus. And when the lotus opens, we do the mudra that is called Chingdrul Gichagya in Tibetan. This is called Pekor Gichagya, the turning lotus mudra. And then Chingdrul Gichagya. Ching means to bind, Trol means to liberate. So it's the mudra of binding and liberating. So basically, it represents like when we do that, the lotus, the knots are unblocked and the energy can flow. The lotus open in a very nice way. Okay? This mudra is found, the Pekor Gichagya, this mudra is found everywhere, like the lotus turning mudra when we do offerings, prostrations, everywhere we find this mudra. The mudra of liberation, it's also found in one practice which is called the Jangchok, that is done normally for people that have died in order to help the person in the bardo. There is one specific practice called Jangchok, ceremony of purification basically. And inside the Jangchok there is this Chingdrul Gichagya, very much done. Which is coming from somewhere else, I don't know exactly where, but in self-healing we use that also. So we have Pekor Mudra, Chingdrul Gichagya in Tibetan it's called. So it's the mudra of liberation preceded by the lotus turning mudra. So we do first the lotus turning mudra, then we open. We are supposed when doing this mudra to make a little pop sound, like. Okay. Basically this is because it represents that when the lotus open, any blockages in our channels like the energy flows. Okay? But don't fix too much the mind on this. On the higher chakras, it's more easy to do because of the position of the hand. When we do in the secret chakra, it's more difficult. But otherwise, our mind gets fixed on it and we forget the whole meaning of what we are doing. So that's not the most important thing. It's just being precise. Okay? And as we do the generation of the lotus, the most important thing is imagine our subtle body very well aligned. The size of the lotus is not very big actually, because everything is happening inside the central channel actually. Okay? We are going to generate the 6 syllables, the Buddhas, everything is inside the central channel. So normally we could say like the lotus, it has the inner part of the lotus, it has the same width, the same size, the same diameter as the central channel. And then there are the petals, which are the channels that go in all the directions. Okay? So it's actually quite small. But to make it more easy for visualization, normally we have the tendency to visualize maybe more or less like this. And the Buddhas we visualize like its size, like that. It's more easy somehow, no? For us to visualize. But generally speaking, it's like, if we really go to look well, the meaning is quite small. Because it is inside the central channel. The central channel, we are supposed to visualize a little bit strong central channel. So let's say it has like 2 fingers maybe, no? Something like this, or maybe like 1 thumb. Okay. It is like so. Basically, The important thing is to visualize a strong central channel, but the size is very, very relative. Like when we really start visualizing, well, like the size doesn't make that much difference. Because now we say how big is like one thumb, then after when we go inside to visualize, it's like infinite big, no? There is one technique to train visualization, which we can explain at this moment. It's called the nose line, not tick, in which we visualize the following. At the tip of our nose, it's a technique to train visualization, to help to visualize in the body. We visualize at the tip of the nose one very, very small Vajra. Okay, this is a big one. But we visualize it very small, like more or less, let's say, 1.5 centimeters. Okay. In the center of the Vajra, like this circle here, is the size of a small pea. Okay? A small circle. Then we have the Vajra at the tip of our nose. Then we look at the center of the Vajra, there is a cycle. Then on the circle at the center of the Vajra, we visualize a whole beautiful environment. On the center of it, on a lotus flower with a sun and a moon cushion, is seated Guru Buddha. The Guru Buddha has 5 chakras, central channel, left and right channel, all the different channels of the subtle body. Then we start visualizing all the chakras and the lotus flowers and the 6 syllables and the symbols and the Buddhas. And then we visualize the details of every Buddha, like the white of their eyes and the details of their hand with the mudras and the clothes, and we go into the small details. Then on the heart of each Buddha, there is again, they have Om Ahum, and then we go to the heart of each one of them, where there is a syllable Hum. And then we go back again and we visualize outside all the Buddhas, and then we visualize Guru Buddha, his details, and then we visualize again the environment, and then the little dot of the Vajra in the top of our nose. We go in and out. Okay? If we do this more times, after to visualize on our own central channel the Buddhas and so on, it becomes much more simple. And we get beyond the blockage of size. But sometimes we may think, oh, how big it needs to be, or how can I fit a Buddha inside my throat? Like, it doesn't fit the size here. You know, I have a little Buddha and it's inside. It's like, it's difficult to understand. Sometimes we can have difficulty. You know, our mind can create blockages where it's not necessary. But based on this, when we do this training, we visualize in a small space something very big, and then we go in and out. Then we train on the quality of space. Then it's more easy to visualize inside ourselves. Okay? This explanation is like the technique that is very well described in the practice of Sarachtamani, the commentary of Sarachtamani. Anyhow, so when we do this practice, such as the opening the lotus, one of the aspects of it is that by directing our mind, we direct our energy. And this is actually quite clear in many, many senses. It's said that the subtle winds, by directing the mind, we direct the winds. The winds follow the direction that the mind gives. Okay? Also, if we look from another perspective, it's like normally to the nervous system. I remember one friend, she had a stroke. And then she needed to do rehabilitation for her arm that was not moving so well anymore after that. And the main technique, the main thing for rehabilitation was visualizing that she was doing the movement. Because when you visualize again and again that you do the movement, basically what happens is that slowly, slowly the brain finds other pathways for the movement to happen. Like you're sending constantly signals for the movement, and because some of the pathways of the nervous system is not working, it finds other pathways for the message to go to the right place. And she had a very successful rehabilitation because she was very used to do meditation and visualization. So for her, the whole concept of visualizing was very simple. So it was being there, not moving the arm, but visualizing that she was doing everything with the arm and the movement and so on. Okay? This is showing that when we visualize something, what happens is that we are sending the message for that movement to happen. And one way or another, we are making subtle movements that we are not aware of. Okay? When we visualize that the channels are opening, we are making that effort. In the gross body, we can see that more easily, like a person that had a stroke and cannot anymore move the arm because the pathways of the brain through which normally the message will go are blocked. For whatever reason, they are not functioning. So by visualizing it again and again and again and again, the body naturally, through the nervous system, finds other pathways to get the same message together. So by that, we can see the power of the mind in this way, and how the connection with the mind and our movements and the mind and the whole nervous system and so on. So, similar to that, when we do the generation of the lotus, we are directing our energy for all the channels to be very well aligned. And we are putting the energy in each one of them. And this happens that through this we are doing some subtle movement is happening there. But like in the normal rehabilitation, it's not enough just to think once that the arm is moving. You need to do it again and again and again and again and again and again until the moment that slowly the body finds the way for the movement. Similar to that, if we visualize our channels very well aligned and then the energy is flowing very well and so on, the more we do it, the more it happens. Like we could call it some sort of very subtle movement that happens inside. The same thing is like when we visualize the central channel and the air going inside the central channel and so on. Wherever we send the mind, the wind, the energy follows. And visualization is one of the most powerful way of doing that. So based on that, it's really a very powerful tool that we have, okay, that we use in the practice of self-healing. Some people may ask me, oh, but why is 5 chakras and not 7 chakras or not 3 chakras or not 6 chakras or whatever? Basically, in our body, we have many different points on which the energy of the channels gather together. For example, there is one in the forehead, and which is an important chakra also. But the 5 main chakras normally, if we combine them, we have the 5 main chakras: crown, throat, heart, navel, and sacral chakra. The navel chakra is just 3 fingers below the navel, and the sacral chakra is on the basis of the coccyx, on the base of the spine. And then we have other practices which we have 3 chakras, which is crown, throat, and heart. Then some practices with 1 chakra, some practices with 7 chakras, or even practices with much more chakras, like 24 and even more. Yeah? There is one practice that I know that it takes into consideration this point. No? Normally, in self-healing, the 5 chakras that we take into consideration is basically the points in which there are energy knots which are created. Like, it's the places in our subtle body where the 2 left and right channels, they go around the central channel and then they continue again on the same side. So when they turn around, because we use mostly the energy of the right and left channel, which is aversion and attraction, it happens that they somehow strangle the central channel. And this is the point that we need to loosen. So when we say we loosen the knots in the channel, it's not that there is an actual real knot. It's just that the channels, they go around the central channel and then they strangle it. So we make them more loose so that it can flow well. And normally this we have 1 knot in the forehead, 1 at the crown, throat, 2 times in the heart, 1 in the navel, and 1 in the sacral chakra. Okay? This solar, how do you say in English? Solar plexus is said to be more like the center of our body. Like, for example, the Dhammakaya meditation, they do exactly there. You know? So this is different ways of meditation also. Okay? But in the practice of self-healing, we are more focusing at the points where this not actually happens. Okay? So, basically, it's not that one practice is right and the other practice is wrong. It's mainly like the focus that is being given and the emphasis that is being given, basically. Okay? So about the lotus is basically that. And I think now we do a little bit of part of the generation of the lotus together. And then after we will continue with the actual other prayers that we still need to do today. And the lotus has many, many meanings. It also has the meaning like it's something extremely pure that is being born in a place that is normally dirty. Like the middle of the mud, coming out the most pure lotus. The lotus has another meaning also because the lotus flower can only be born, can only exist. If you plant a lotus flower, it will only blossom when all the perfect conditions are there. Actually, not blossom, sorry, from the seed. If you plant a lotus seed, it will only ripen when all the perfect conditions are there. And the seed can actually stay without ripening like for maybe 2,000 years, 3,000 years. It can stay for a very long period. If the perfect conditions are not there, it's not coming out. So whenever we see a lotus flower, it means all the perfect conditions are there for it to see. So somehow it represents like creating all the necessary conditions for our subtle body to be very well balanced and the energy to flow well. This is also representing that. And on the other side also, it means like from something impure, it's being born something pure. So lotus represents also as a symbol of renunciation, love towards ourselves. That's different types of meaning, the lotus itself. Okay? But the most important at this point of the practice is we simply visualize the lotus inside, and then it's like all the channels very well aligned and the energy can flow very well together. Okay? So we do together now this part of the practice. So we visualize our subtle body. We have a central channel, a left and a right channel. We try to look at the channel from inside. The central channel is strong. While the left and the right channel are more weak. As we inhale and we have 5 main points of energy at our crown, throat, heart, navel, and on the basis of our spine, the so-called secret chakra. At our secret chakra appears a green lotus flower with 32 petals. appears a yellow lotus with 64 petals. At the heart, a blue lotus with 8 petals. At the throat, a red lotus with 16 petals. And at the crown appears a white lotus with 32 petals. Now we do a little bit of recitation of each one of the Pamlepemas as we concentrate on the lotuses on our chakras. When we do like self-healing retreats, one of the ways is this. You go to each one of them, then we'll recite like, the complete retreat will be like 10,000 of each one. Pamlepema Django, Pamlepema Serpo, and like this we go on concentrating on each one. Okay? We start from the fifth chakra. Pamlepema Serpo, Pamlepema Django, 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 Pamlep Bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bema bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bema bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bamle bema jango 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 bamle bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bema jango bamle bema bamle bema jango pamle pema serpo 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 pamle pema 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 serpo pamle pema pamle pema serpo pamle pema serpo pamle pamle pema serpo pamle pema serpo pamle pema serpo pamle pamle pema serpo blue lotus at our heart, 8 petals. Pamle pema ngombo 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 pamle pamle pema ngombo 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 pamle pema pamle pema ngombo pamle pema pamle pema ngombo 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 pamle pamle pema ngombo pamle pema ngombo red lotus 16 petals at our throat. Pamle pema marpo 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 pamle pema pamle pema marpo 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 Bema Margo Bone Bema Margo. Omle Bema Margo Bone Bema. Omle Bema Margo Bone Bema Margo Bone. Omle Bema Margo Bone Bema. Omle Bema Margo. White lotus, 32 petals at our crown. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo Pamle. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo Pamle. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo Pamle. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo Pamle. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo. Omle Bema Karpo Pamle Bema Karpo. Omle Bema Karpo. Now we briefly conclude the practice of self-healing. Om Ahong Tramri Vile Natso Dorje Jangore Tam le Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. Om Mahasukha Hum. 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 Om Vishwashanti Hum. Om Vishwashanti. Om Vishwashanti Hum. Om Vishwashanti Hum. Om Vishwashanti Hum. Lama Kuncho Sumla NgalSo Rani la sedo tril sone Nga choson yer chutada Ge cho kunto chishindro tenje Dorna disu nam karage wetso Chinye sapate inyurtuda Norbo panzo shambalar Lame lamgirim Chinsho Ni modele tendele Ni me kuyandele Nin sentakto delekpe Concho sum ki jingilo Concho sum ki ngodrup tol Concho sum ki rashisho At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessing. May they help us to achieve all realization. Various signs of auspicion. Allah. One important thing for us to understand, it doesn't matter what sadhana we may do, and I try to put this clear when we do self-healing, is that what we have written here is just like a map, it's indicative, like an indication We can make one part longer, we can make it shorter. There is an order that we need to respect. Each part has its important thing there. But we can make much more with more emphasis in one part and more emphasis in another. So it's very important for us to understand the structure of a practice so that we can have the freedom to do it in a more long or short way. That's why also in these days I try to do the practice of self-healing using different tunes, recitation, singing, making it more short in one part, making it more long, so that we can learn a little bit that we have this freedom. Okay? Like, I would like to do now one self-healing, very short version. We do like the extremely short version of self-healing. Okay? It's the same thing, but we recite a little bit more fast. It takes, I think, like no more than 5 minutes. Okay? We can even count the time. So if they have no time, at least some idea how long it takes. Okay? So you just follow me. Locho sambo pagyu trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngoda pege drolo tampe zebrache pande lame shabla sovade omo a guru vajradara sumati muni shasane kar uta vardanye shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hom Om A Guru Buddha 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 Siddhi Hom Eyam Ram Lam Bam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Yam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Ram Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Lam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Bam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Yam Ram Lam Bam Ho Shuddhe Shuddhe Soha Omo Sobhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Sobhava Shuddha Pamle pema jango, pamle pema serpo, pamle pema ngompo, pamle pema marpo, pamle pema karpo. Om ahum tramri, rile natso dorje janguri, tramle norbo serpo tram, honle dorje ngompo hong. Ale pema marpo a, omle korlo karpo om, om korlo nanse dorje, a pema che dorje, hum dorje mikyo dorje, tam norbo rinchun dorje, ri natso dorje tonyun dorje, lama tonyun dorje ken. Om A Moga Siddhi Hom Lama Rinchun Dorje Ken Om A Ratna Sambhava Hom Lama Mikyo Dorje Ken Om A Akshobhya Hom Lama Che Dorje Ken Om A Amitabha Hom Lama Nanze Dorje Ken Om A Vairochana Hom Anye keche ge dorje chanto ekyo. Om mani peme hum, 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 om mani peme hum. Om mani peme hum, om mani peme hum, om mahasukha 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 Shanti Hom. Om Vishwa Shanti Hom. Om Vishwa Shanti Hom. Om Vishwa Shanti. Lama Kuncho Sumla Kyapso Che Rani Lase Dodre Sone Che Donga Che Sun Yercho Tada Gecho Kundu Chishin Roden Che Dorna Ditsu Namkara Gewe Tso Chinye Sapa Te Nyurtuda Norbo Panzo Sham Lame Lamge Rimba Tarchin Sho Nimo Dele Tsendele Nime Kunyan Dele Inten Tatu Dele Pe Kuncho Sumge Jinge Lop Kuncho Sumge Ngodruso Kuncho Sumge Trashi Sho. Four minutes and 47. This is just to show that we can do the practice concentrated in a short period. And the way how it's taught in every sadhana that we may do. When we begin the sadhana, we should make it in the middle way. Not too short and not too long. Because if we make too short, we are not able to concentrate and to get it every minute. If we make it too long, it becomes too tired and difficult. Then once we get used of making the practice in a middle way, then we should make it in a long version, concentrating on every detail, going on every aspect of the practice. Then when we get familiarized with making the practice in a long version, then we should do it in a very short way without losing the quality of the long one. Okay? So concentrating on every part and being able to follow every part without losing anyone, even if we're doing fast. The Om Ahum, the breathing in the final part, actually it's not exactly part of self-healing. It is like one addendum, it's like one extra part that we can add. No? Actually we can do the Om Ahum separately, alone, without the rest of the self-healing, or we can do it with the self-healing also. No? Maybe if you may remember me tomorrow, I can explain a little bit more about the Om Ahum, going more to the meaning of it and so on. But it's not like an obligatory part of self-healing, while the rest is part of the self-healing. No? That's why even if we look in the booklet, it's after Nimodele, it's in the end, like one extra, it's like one appendix. Okay? And there is one thing when doing the practice reciting quickly, is that when we get very familiarized with the practice, even though we do quickly, we are able to follow every step. And time is relative. So something that may look like very short, it can be experienced in a very profound way. No? I had like two experiences which had nothing to do directly with the practice, but which showed me how this experience of how a short period of time can be lived as something very long. And one time I was in India, and actually I was in the Maharaja Palace of Mysore. Just went with some friends to look at the palace, and then I was outside waiting, and it was a sunny day. I was under a big tree, and there was like a hot stone, so I was sitting in this stone. Behind me there were some fences, so I was just sitting there, waiting, talking to someone, just waiting there. Suddenly, it's like if something happened, then everything became like slow motion. Really like the people walking around, everything became like slow motion. And then even the sounds were like slow, and I started listening the sound of a crack that normally go crack. It was like crack, very loud, very grave, with the not a high tune, very low tune, no, like crack, 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 slowly, slowly, and then I understood. The branch above me is breaking. And then I had so it was like if everything went in slow motion, I could understand the branch above me is breaking. It's like if I had slowly, long time to think about it. Okay, look at this, it's breaking, what should I do? Maybe better for me not to be here. Then when I say I need to jump, then I jumped and things got back to normal timing. And then I jumped very fast.
like 2 meters to the front, and then this big branch, like 40 centimeters wide, fell exactly where I was sitting, no? And broke the whole fences behind me and exactly where I was sitting. So somehow we may call this protection, but on the other side, for me, the very interesting thing, I was very happy because it was this very interesting experience of time. Then one other time I was doing fire puja in Albagnano. And when we do fire puja, we need to make the offerings. And sometimes it's not so comfortable with the Vajra in the hand. This is too big, but with a small one. No? And then one thing that can happen, but it's really not good auspicious, if the dorje or the bell fall down into the fire. Okay? It's a big problem for the attendants that need to go there and stop and take. It's quite complicated if this happens. I already saw this happening. Luckily with me never happened. But this time, when I was making the offering, suddenly the dorje went away from my hand. But then again, slow motion. And I could see the dorje jumping in the middle of the fire like this, very slowly. Oh. And then I had the time, this is not good. I need to pick it up back. I had the time to look where it was, the position of it, to direct my hand into it. And then I went and I took it from the fire, like before it falling down. You were there? But my experience was that everything slowed down. And then I could see it slowly. I remember now, I could see slowly moving in the middle of the fire. And then I had the time to think, I need to catch it. And then you go there and to catch it, no? So this is just to say that time is relative. There are many examples, how we can do that. So if we learn how to, also even in our practice, it's possible to recite fast, but to really have very deep experience and to really be able to visualize everything and to live the whole thing. It is very much possible. Especially sometimes when we do faster, we are able to concentrate better even. So we just follow everything and we go through the whole process. But in order for us to be able to do in a faster way but still being deep in the practice, we need to be familiarized with every step. We need to know very well what to recite, what's the mudra, what's the visualization. And once we know this and we get used to it, then it actually is very interesting because it's like the mind automatically follows the works that we are doing with the visualization and everything. We don't need to think anymore. Now I visualize this, then I visualize that. And like this we go on, no? That's why sometimes we see like monks and geishas like reciting sadhanas extremely fast. No? And some people may look and say, come on, that's how possible to do the practice like this. It's possible out of familiarity. Because you do it so many times, next time when you do, it's just like, it's like entering into like this process and it just flows as we do the practice. Okay? So, it's something that you can experience with self-healing also. Then once you know how to do that, then it's also very much possible to do self-healing without words, without movement, just following the whole process of visualization. It's also possible. Okay? So, this is really something that it's important for us a little bit to train ourselves and to know all the possibilities. Otherwise, we end up with many excuses. I don't have time, and this and that. And like what we have just done 5 minutes. Who don't have 5 minutes every day? Come on. Sincerely. Even it may be in the shower, okay. Better if you are sitting down. But if you have no other possibility, at least something, no? But it's like, sit down, concentrate, 5 minutes. What take? Add another 2-3 minutes, just breathe a little bit calmly. Concentrate well, and then Lord just But if you like, even it's possible to do even faster. But Tony, this is fast enough, 5 minutes. We can do even faster. It doesn't matter how fast it is. The important is that we are well concentrated and we follow the whole process of the visualization. Okay? This is the important thing. And so make your own experience of it. This is also important. And once we know how to do that, then we can do also in a very short period. Okay? But it's very interesting that when we start making it more long, then it's so pleasurable to make it long. Like there was a period in which I always wanted to look at the sadhanas and the books, like about philosophy, everything. I always wanted a condensed version. Then there was a period in which I was studying in Tibet, and I had more calm and time to study and read. And then I wanted the long versions, and all the long versions I found were never long enough. I wanted them more long, more detailed, and I was looking for them. No? It's like, because then you go into the details, and there's the pleasure of going into the details. It's like sitting, and then you really visualize slowly all the petals, like the sit syllables, which we are going to explain more detail tomorrow. But there's a lot of visualization to do in the moment of the sit syllables. We can stay like really long time just doing the sit syllable. Okay, so it's something that it's important for us to train ourselves into the sadhana, on the practice, by making it middle way, then making it long, and then making it short. Okay? And learning also that we can put more emphasis in one part, less emphasis in another. We can also, it's flexible the way how to do it. Okay? That's why any practice that we like to learn, it doesn't matter if we do self-healing, if we do environment practice of the five mothers, if we are doing a sadhana of Vajrayana, of Yamantaka, of Guya Samadhi, it doesn't matter. For me, the first thing I like to do when I start to make a new sadhana is I take the sadhana and I need to understand the structure of it. Until where does the preliminary goals, then where is the generation stage, completion stage, conclusion, how it is structured, which are the parts of the practice. Because when we're able to divide it into parts, then basically we can choose to make one more short, one more long, and we know exactly where we are. Then we are in a certain moment of the practice, and then we know how much there is still to go, where we are, and then it makes everything much more simple. And there is a nice short story when Rinpoche was in Switzerland in the beginning of the 80s. And Son Rinpoche was there. And he went to Son Rinpoche. Son Rinpoche was a little bit sick. So he called Rinpoche to do some pujas. There were some pujas that Son Rinpoche liked very much doing, like Pandelama Puja of Mamer Progon, or the puja with the Heart Sutra, or Dushek Testum, and other pujas like this. So Rinpoche was very used to do all these pujas, so he went there to this place where Son Rinpoche was staying, and he was doing all these pujas for him. And when finished all the pujas, Rinpoche said to Son Rinpoche, I'd like to offer one long life puja for you. Then Son Rinpoche will say, come on, here I am, sick, difficult to stay sitting, concentrated, and then stay sitting there all the time, and you want to keep me for hours in a long life puja. Come on, what's that? No need. And Rinpoche said, no, please, I make it really short. He insisted a little bit. And this is typical Tibetan way, and it insists a little bit. And then Son Rinpoche said, okay, let me see what you can do. And then Rinpoche did the whole long life puja, extremely short version, without letting anything outside, but making it very, 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 very short. And Son Rinpoche was so happy. Think, that's the way how you need to do things. Don't be too much attached to the words that are written in the text. They need to be exactly how it's written there. You need to know the parts, you need to know the structure, and then you can make it shorter or longer without missing anything. Then he said, now I'm going back to Ganden, I will see if they're able to do something like this there, because they are just, he said all this. And he was very, Son Rinpoche was very straightforward, so it was critical somehow. And he was saying, this monks, they only know how to do things as it's written on the text. They don't know how to get out of the structure that was given to them. Some yes, some not. But it's important for us to follow the structure well, but then also have the flexibility to do shorter here, longer there, and to have this flexibility in our practice, generally speaking. Okay? And so when we have more time, we put more emphasis in one part or in another part. It's good to have flexibility. Then we understand that the practice is not the booklet. The practice is an inner process of visualization. Actually, every sadhana that we do, it is a complete path from the beginning, taking refuge, up to enlightenment and the enlightened action. Like, we have the complete path to enlightenment. In self-healing, it's the complete path to enlightenment. From the beginning of it, requesting the blessings and taking refuge before, the very beginning of the steps of the path, up to the process of developing each one of our qualities up to enlightenment. So in the whole process, every sadhana is like this. So the process must be complete. But then we can learn to put more emphasis here, to put more emphasis there, and understand that is a process of enlightenment. It's like simulating the whole process to enlightenment. It has a structure that needs to be followed. But the words are just there to guide us on this structure. Even if we are doing one sadhana of any other practice, okay? Let's say I do Yamantaka. Once I really know the visualization clear, I don't need to recite the whole thing. It's enough, let's say I do the offerings. Om Rishti Vikritanana, Om Pe Om Sabhavashu, Sarodharma Sabhavashu Doha. Om Argam, Om Padyam, Om Pushpe, Om Gende, Om Pushpe, Om Dube, Om Alokya, Om Nivede, Om Shabda, Ahum. That's enough. I don't need to say. Compagnie de Dieu, Tomengale, Allegion, et Tabaya Shingatua, Namgina, Hon, Shu, Allegion, et Shazeti, Method of Mame, Shazeromon, Shazeromola, Sobanarashi, de Namba, the Chile, one Podrugi, to Saba, maybe they don't yet Kebar, think Kebar, Gur. This is just a description of the visualization. If I truly know the visualization and I'm used to it, I can just go directly to the whole visualization because the mind is faster than the words, no? We can just go to the whole visualizations and go directly to the mantras of the offerings. It's possible even. Okay? So we don't need to be necessarily tied to the way how it's written. We should not start inventing new things. But we should understand that the written sadhana is like a map for our mind and our practice. It's important also.